Barbara Middleton, and my birthday's April 3rd, 1943, so I have a birthday coming up.
Oh, excellent. Happy birthday. What aspect of the women's movement have you most enjoyed being a part of?
Oh, gosh, it's really a difficult one. I think just helping redefine who we are as women. One of the things that I have believed is that we've really been defined by, for, and sometimes against men, as if they are the definers, and I think that it's by coming together as women, really wanting to not only redefine but re-understand who we are in every area. It's not just one specific area. I think the peace movement has been an important piece. I sing now in Boulder with 120 plus women, and we are from all walks of life. We have all kinds of different experiences. The sisters I sing with, some are lesbian, some are non-lesbian, some are moms, and I think just embracing who we are, all aspects of who we are as women all over the globe.
Definitely, definitely. And I saw you got interested in kind of women's issues at a very young age. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about how you got interested in all this kind of stuff?
Well, I think it's the kind of thing that happens on the playground, that sort of thing, where if a boy doesn't do what people think a boy should do, he's called a sissy, or he is called something that sounds like, well, you're like a girl. And I always wondered, well, what's the matter with being a girl? Nothing wrong with being a girl. And that it's very important for me to find out how did that start. For me, being equal is about being valued equally, by gender, by orientation, by race, by all those. It's like it's equal value. It's not that we're the same. And so it was a question I just always had, and I didn't know that anybody else was asking that question, and until I was older and found out that there was something called feminism and equal rights, that other people, other women especially, thought that how we were living and how we were being taught was not the way that we needed to learn how to live as women in this world.
In your work that you've done on women's issues, have there been any specific obstacles or trials that you've had to go through or overcome that have had an impact on your life?
Oh, I think always. I think it's hard. I think one of the things is that if you get bogged down with remembering those, it can keep you from moving forward. I think there's always fear, and I think the fear that someone's going to think that you hate men, thinking that you are too outspoken, that you're not being womanly or female if you speak too opinionated, that there's so many words that are used against women that are so demeaning. And I think it's that fear that someone's going to use those words or those thoughts and separate you from both your own feelings and other people, because of a way to dissociate you. So it sometimes is difficult was difficult to sometimes say everything that I wanted to say, because it really wasn't about being against somebody. It was being for myself and my, other women.
Definitely. Kind of on the opposite end of that, what do you feel have been some of your greatest successes in your work on women's issues?
Well, when I was a volunteer for the Women's Foundation, I was the grants chair, and for almost 4 years we were able to give money. And it's so funny because when we would first talk to men in banks about how much money someone might need to start a business, they'd say, well, you can't start anything with that kind of money. But women can create so much out of a small amount of money, a small office, whatever. And watching women create something that was so dear to their hearts, and to give them that kind of money that they could then create something and go to the institutions that exist that lend money. And really, it's almost like birthing. It's like you're helping somebody birth an idea, birth a dream, birth some passion that they have. And you know, that I don't think there's anything better than that.
Very cool. I saw you helped in, or one of the main creators of the Gaia Institute for Feminist Therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? It sounded interesting.
Well, one of the things that was important is that after women were sort of in positions that had been taken, you know, primarily male, you know, lawyers, doctors, clergy, whatever, they found oftentimes that it was sort of devoid of anything that was heartfelt. They didn't feel like they were really growing there. So it was a way to, because Gaia is the earth goddess, and it's, you know, we do so much against the earth that there's a way in which women, I think, in the earth and the whole nurturing aspect are there together. How to bring women together to talk about, okay, so now you're a doctor, now you're a lawyer, now you're in a position that the feminist movement said this is where you need to be, you can be here, and it's without life, it's without nurture, it's without heart. How do you want to change that system? And so many women made the decision to start their own law firms, to leave a medical practice and begin a practice on their own, so that they could create even the profession out of their own desire and their own understanding of what it is to be in this world.
Are there any events or occurrences that have occurred that kind of define your involvement in the women's issues to you, or is it kind of all, I mean, the greater goal that does that for you, or what would you say has been some of the most impactful things that you've been involved in?
Well, one thing that's happened, and it was relatively, it's probably in the last 15 to 20 years, is that I found myself being with a woman who was wanting to have a natural childbirth and was wanting to be assisted in that process, not as from a midwife, but something called a doula. And a doula that's a Greek word for birth assistant or woman helper. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up not only being with a woman and her husband during the birth and helping her by nurturing her and encouraging her. I went for training, and in that process saw that the medical profession really doesn't embrace women, you know, really having their own bodily experience. The medical profession has sort of taken that birthing process away. And I don't think there's anything more beautiful than having a woman experience that birth. And I was then able to coincidentally deliver my own granddaughter in the back seat of the car one day when we were visiting. And that sense of empowerment and that almost that sense of having an innate that we all maybe have that innate ability to not only birth but help in birthing, because I think it's a very ancient wisdom, and I think that's the kind of thing that I found both with the Gaia Institute and some of the work, is that we have in some ways separated ourselves from the ancient traditions that women have done for millennia.
Wow, very interesting. What would you consider some of the main issues confronted by women today? What do young activists or activists actually of any age, what are the things we should be concentrating on today? What do you feel?
Well, I think we've moved to another level. Access. Mm-hmm. Women have equality of access. I still don't believe they have equality of value. I don't believe they're really valued in the same way in the workplace. I don't think they value themselves and each other. Sometimes they're making enough money, so it's not a matter of money. They've had enough education, but they stay in relationships that are still abusive. They find themselves being very mechanistic in how they view their bodies and how they really live in the world. And I think it's time for women to really step back and talk to each other again. How are we? Who are we? And again, not define it by the standard, what I call the gold standard, which has primarily been the patriarchy, how men see things. That's just one way of seeing, and that's one way of living. And if we look around, we can see a lot of destruction from that just one way. Destruction to the earth, and the systems that we're in right now are just chaotic. And we have to, as women and men, work together to to heal so many things that have just gone asunder because of how we've treated ourselves, each other, in the universe. So,
Great. Kind of finish things up. If you had to give your best advice to any young activist or any young woman interested in helping further current women's issues, what would you say to them?
I think that you need to appreciate yourself and your sisters. I think that what's happened, I know there's some years back, and there's been a lot of talk about the whole girl gangs, mean girls, all that kind of stuff. It's still very, very poignant. And I think that women and girls, when they come together, can sometimes work against each other. And it's about being partners with each other in terms of making, you're not going to necessarily like everyone, but don't try to destroy someone, and try to give each other the benefit of the doubt and work together to create a better world. Don't fight each other.